stretched out to overload, a hidden message devoid of meaning. And though this ending was not foretold, the answer's written in another way of thinking. So come on and let it
mostly associate Ireland's budding music scene with Dublin, but it turns out that's a big misconception. Waterford is buzzing with young talent, as Intravenous recently showcased. As Sheila explains, Intravenous is a novel concept.
Well, this exhibition is called an Intravenous Music Exhibition, and it has come about because John Hegarty, who you're going to talk to, has made a compilation CD of some of the best music in Waterford that's been made. Contemporary music, young bands. And when I say young bands, I don't necessarily mean teenagers, I mean just people who are trying to make a living out of music at the moment. So everything that's on the tables at the moment is, I suppose, an adequate representation of that music. And all the posters on the wall would be their artwork and how they promote themselves. And because the music industry doesn't focus very highly on Waterford, you know, it was a decision to put out the CD and put out the compilation, but also to run an exhibition around it so that people could access that music. They could come in and listen to anything that they wanted to. And they've all been catalogued, so there's some information there to tell you what that music might be about. And you can take it and come over here and sit down and listen to it on our Walkman or whatever. But also we have lunchtime events that are happening, and so some of the musicians that are up there on the table or up there on the wall, they're coming in and playing sort of smaller acoustic gigs at lunchtime, so that's between 1 and 2. There's a lot of artwork here being represented as well. A lot of the album artwork, as in the album covers, has been put onto these projectors for us here, so you can go into that room there and have a look at some of the really nice artwork. So there's quite a bit to do. We have some footage as well that you can look at and see and listen to. So it's a very touchy-feely exhibition, very interactive, and you know, we're sort of encouraging people to get in there and put their hands on stuff.
It's exciting for young Waterford bands to see their work showcased like this.
The reaction has been really, really good with regard to actually giving us music. That has been absolutely overwhelming. You know, we had no concept of how many people are out there who are making music in their bedrooms, in their garages, in their studios, whatever. So that's been really, really, really interesting. There's a lot of people out there who are working away very busily to create something, you know, so that's kind of cool.
And it's also a first for Garter Lane.
Since the building has been refurbished, this particular room that you're in has not been used as an exhibiting gallery. So this is the first time really that's been used to really properly exhibit something. And I think that's why it's interesting, because it allows us as an art centre to engage with that band scene, to have some sort of dialogue with them that we wouldn't have had in the past. Usually we're talking about having musicians or you know, artists who are playing in the theatre, but not really using an art space to exhibit or to show their wares, if you like. I mean, it is an awareness building exercise with regard to just contemporary music in Waterford. I mean, that would be hitting the nail on the head. That's how I'd explain it, you know.
Send you a postcard to say you won. I still love you. You're watch the sunny sky.
far back as John can remember, music has been his thing.
I've been involved in music since about 15 or 16, playing in bands, and I was in a band years ago. We were signed to Sony Records. Ended up going back to college and doing soundtracks for friends who were doing films and stuff. So when I ended up in Waterford, there just seemed to be a really good scene emerging. Everyone seems to be very confident. There's very few drawbacks because Waterford Bands haven't done really well before, nationwide or globally or anything. So suddenly there's a bit of innocence around the Waterford music scene at the moment, and it's just sort of a pleasure to be around at the moment, that there's so many good bands and so many good people just that are so confident with their music at the moment.
It's hard to pin down a certain type of music that's being played in Waterford, as it's very eclectic.
There's all sorts coming out at the moment, like with the exhibition we're running at the moment. There's electronica, singer-songwriters, rock and roll. There's just all sorts happening here at the moment. The one drawback sometimes is there isn't as many venues down here as you would like. So the bands are sort of fighting the whole time to try and get out there, get their own little gigs. But that sort of works in their favour sometimes. Sometimes they find their own little nooks and crannies then where they can turn on their own little show, and you know, it becomes more, I don't know, it's just more accessible for people to find out what the bands are like and what their characters are like and what they're into and stuff like that. So sometimes not having venues can be tough, but also it makes you sort of work harder and stuff.
And of course, you can do your bit to support the scene yourself.
I mean, you can come in, you can listen to it, but you can also look at the artwork that other bands have put, the time they've put into it, the videos that they've put in, how they put on their live shows, which are on here every day and everything. Suddenly you start looking and saying, oh, that there is a complete package that we need to get together if we are going to be professional enough to make it in music and stuff. You have to think about your covers, you have to think about biogs, photos, gigs, how you're going to approach crowds, how to get along with people. And also, the one nice thing about Waterford at the moment is that there's no animosity between any bands. There's no fighting. Like, everyone's actually looking out for each other. If someone needs a bass player, they give someone a ring. If you need a drummer, you go, who's the best drummer? Who's the guy who suits us? And everyone's being very accommodating at the moment. So that sort of whole scene has come together, and that sort of gave us the idea really for the exhibition, seeing how people are interacting with each other and noticing that there can be a great scene and still people can look out for each other and all help each other to try and get to the next step. You can go on to Garter Lane anytime to check about Waterford Bands and stuff, but I mean, it's the same if you go on to any of the MySpaces by any of the bands, you start to notice that they're all friends with Waterford Bands, they're all looking out for each other for gigs and stuff.
It doesn't take a music maestro to realise that Katie has a beautiful voice, but when did all this music talent start for her?
I've just been a music fan for all my life. My mother used to play in a small band and she bought me my first guitar. So, and I never really learned how to play other people's songs on them, so I just had to kind of make up my own songs on the guitar after doing it. So that's how I kind of started playing, and then played around Waterford, in a few small bars, the Kings and out in the Vic and Tremor, and just did that for a few years. And then until about 4 years ago, I moved in with Terry Cullen, who used to be in a band called 10 Speed Racer, and he moved down to Waterford, and he wanted to set up his own thing called Day Kim. So he asked me just to be in it, and then I started playing properly around Ireland and with Day Kim, and he taught me a lot about it. He'd learned a lot about the music industry and what he'd been doing that whole time that he was in 10 Speed Racer, so I learned a lot from him about it. And then just Day Kim took a small break for a while, and I just took the opportunity to jump and do something for myself, do my own stuff. So the drakes of your writings are covered in snow. Can't see nothing, these legs feel like stone, oh, and behold.
She feels there's a variety in what she produces.
I don't know, it's hard. I'd say it's just fairly downbeat, most of it. I like to have experimental things going on in the background, even if they're just simple up front, just a guitar or a voice up front. But I like to have a lot of experimental things going on in the background, you know, like certain guitars or using harmoniums or xylophones or foreign instruments. I don't know, I'd say it's just straightforward kind of alternative pop songs, I would say, or, you know.
And she's done what all artists aspire to. She's made an album.
In Sound Bouncer Studios, it's owned by Conor Nolan and John Haggis helped me make it. John Haggis, whose stuff is also showed here, but he helped me produce it and arrange it. And so yeah, just done. It's basically in a house, but Conor has built this inbuilt studio in there, so up there. It's based here in Waterford. I'm going to send it off to New York and try and get it mastered properly and try and get a full band together and just put it out in September and be ready to tour properly with a full band in September and from then on.